Hey, it's been a little while since I've done a video where I just stand here and talk to you all. You watch me make coffee, but I've really been thinking about the question, is God immoral? Let's make coffee and talk about it. Got the ginormous bag of Starbucks because, I don't know, I think I drink 8 cups of coffee a day. Okay, water's boiled, we're about ready. So we gotta kind of back up from the actual question and really begin to understand a couple things. So the first thing is, we have to understand that if we're gonna judge something as being good or bad, right, which is just kind of like we'll call that the fundamental analysis from which we can draw moral conclusions. In order to determine whether something's good or bad, we have to employ a value system of some kind, which means we have to have a value system in the first place. And well, where that comes from, this is an interesting idea by Ayn Rand that I really like this idea. She says that because we are rational and living creatures, we have to have a value system. And that value system is fundamentally that we value that which promotes our lives and we don't value that which would contribute to our demise, right? Essentially our literal death. Now animals, non-rational animals like your dog, your cat, they don't have a value system, they just have instincts, and their instincts drive them towards the things that help them survive and drives them away from, right, which is also towards what helps them survive, drives them away from that which would harm them, kill them, etc. But humans, we're different, right? Our instincts aren't so good, and we have our ability to reason and to be logical and rational. And she actually says that we are obligated to employ that rationality. And through employing that rationality to help us survive and not die, we essentially create values. And fundamentally, that's what those values are. Now, just like animals, right, we value that which helps us physically survive. There's a physical component there, of course, which is you got to eat, you got to drink water, you want food, you want shelter. You need all these things just to survive. This sounds a lot like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I'll throw up on there for you. And I think that's accurate. And as you climb Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you get beyond the physical needs and you start getting into more of like the psychological needs and what I even call maybe the needs of your soul. Now, I know you think I'm on a tangent, but this all matters. You'll see why. And as you drive away from just good, bad in terms of does this help me live or does this promote me dying, you start to go towards this area of does this help me live? Does this help my spirit live, or does this kill my spirit? And that's where we kind of get into this idea of things that are good and bad from a moral perspective. If we follow that logic, you can kind of see how just the idea of something being moral or immoral is sort of a human concept. It requires humanness, right? It requires that you are a person with a rational mind. It requires that you have a value system. It requires all these things. And we, being humans and limited in our capacity to understand, we want to apply those standards to God. And it's so funny because we recognize, well, yeah, we say, I think anybody would agree, like even an atheist who wants to, let's say an atheist who will consider for a moment that God is real, would say he's omnipotent, he's omniscient, he's outside of time and space. And we ascribe all these qualities to him, but we also recognize he's not a person. And yet then we try to personify him and apply human-like qualities to him. And what that means is we could then say, well, God can be immoral. God could be moral, right? And it would be immoral for him to allow bad things to happen to good people, or maybe allow bad things to happen at all. But the issue there it's not even the argument that he's allowing bad things to happen. It's actually before that. It's the fact that you are trying to apply a human level understanding and reasoning and ultimately a moral compass on not a human, on a spirit, right? On God. And as soon as you think about that, you're like, well, okay, wait a minute. So then we have other questions to ask. Does that mean God can be moral or immoral at all? I think the answer is no. I think the answer is no. And the reason is because our morals, like I said, they're predicated on the existence of God. Because God is there, we know that some things are good and some things are bad. I gotta get rid of this filter. The things that are moral are essentially things that are oriented towards the highest good, which would be God. And things that are immoral are essentially things that are oriented in the opposite direction. So God being the preceding factor to morality is then outside of morality. So can God be immoral? No. Can he be moral? No. Can't be any of those things because those things are human qualities. So yes, in that sense, then God would be outside of the moral scope because he is what creates the moral landscape for humans to operate within. And then I'll just leave with this. So I was reading this earlier and reading some Carl Jung, and there was this thought in there, and is that can there ever be good that comes from evil? And can there ever be evil that comes from good? And I don't know about that one yet. I haven't thought that one through like I thought this one through, and even then I'm still thinking it through. But let me know if you've got any thoughts on that one down below. And so questions like this one, right? This idea of God being immoral or moral, or why do bad things happen to good people, or bad things happen at all? All of these questions, right? And then trying to dig to the bottom of them and doing what we just did, right? It doesn't necessarily mean I've got the answer, and I'm not going to claim to be 100% correct or that there's no flaws in what I just said or anything like that, right? It's all about the thought process. But through that process of thinking deeply about things, you start to understand, not, if nothing else, that this is highly complex. And it's a very humbling thing, and it makes you realize that you know this much, and the more you know that much, right? Because you learn and understand there's so much more out there that you just don't know. I'm just gonna leave it with that. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, that helps me out. And thanks for watching this. And like I said, if you've got thoughts or any opinions on any of this stuff, just throw it down below. I'd love to hear them. Thanks so much for watching.